in a realistic manner. I don't think valuation is important from the first discussion, because in an early stage company, and I'll explain that, I think focusing on valuation when you're first sitting down with the investors is the wrong thing to do, because they already know where those numbers are going to fall, and Kathy alluded to it. It's 20 to 40% or 20 to 50%, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But so know your market. You can define the market size, and that's what will get the investor potentially interested, and then know your investor. Are you dealing with an angel investor, a VC, or private equity? Is your angel investor, it has to be an accredited, sophisticated investor. You don't want to get like a doctor investing in a technology company. He's going to drive you crazy, every day. And by the same token, you don't want to spend time presenting to a VC that's interested in, pharma development if you're in consumer-directed healthcare. You also want to know, and you'll know this immediately from the start, in asking them, do you invest in early, mid, or late stage? Don't waste your time talking to them if they're not in where you are revenue-wise. And private equity is a kind of a different beast anyways. But so those are some of the kind of general big principles I touch upon, and if there's an opportunity, I'm happy to go into some tips.
I think not only knowing which funds to go to, knowing where they are in their life cycle, I think is important. And maybe, Art, you could touch on that.
I think that's a key point, because even though we do 40% of our investments in seed and early stage, really early preclinical activities, we do them at the beginning of a new fund. So we have the time and the reserves to kind of follow it through. The other thing, at least in the biologic life sciences and chemistry area, you want to also know the philosophy by which the fund manages their reserves. In our case, because of the risk in clinical development, we're reserving almost $2 for every dollar invested. In a pharmaceutical or biotech company, a device company, we might do $1 for dollar. But that's an important discipline to know if that investor you're bringing in stays with you through the entire process.
You have to think of the VC funds that do invest in the life science less like icebergs. You've only seen a little bit of it. Yeah. They need to keep the money in reserve, because there's generally going to be several rounds of financing later, and in a lot of cases, to preserve one's position or valuation, you need to pay to play and maintain that position, which I think is what you're alluding to.
Yeah. So just on valuation, just to go back to it, one of the things we've seen in terms of a healthy change with the angels, and we also see it ourselves when we're doing early stage investing, is we sometimes may not try to price the round. We might go into something with, say, $1 million of seed money, and do it in a convertible note that we know will be in some form that we know will be acceptable to a VC group coming in to price the round later on, either by discounting it or some warrants. And that's made it a lot easier to deal with other VCs as they come into a Series B or Series B.
That's a very good point, using a convertible note situation so you can avoid the valuation discussions at that earliest stage. Maybe, Steve, you could cover a few more do's and don'ts that might be important for those people thinking about taking off of the bulletin boards that are outside, taking some of that mad science and turning it into to a successful company.
Sure. One other thing I just want to go back to, which I think is a real life practical scenario as it relates to valuations, because really what happens unless you've invented something completely radical and new and can show it's going to be used on a mass market scale, I would tell you that 80 to 90% of the time, the way you raise money is figure out how much you need, and that'll dictate to you your valuation. So if you need $1 million, you're going to negotiate with somebody like Kathy, and she's going to tell you, at the end of the day, she's going to take 20 to 50% of the company. So there's your valuation. Short of that, I wouldn't spend too much time. It's true, you can get comps. And when I started a company called Skin Store in '96, it was totally different. The internet was different. I remember first pitching somebody on it and saying, we have no revenue, we have no customers, but look, these guys are doing this, so we're worth this much money, and people believe that. That's the kind of mindset it was. It's just not that way. So the reality is you're 20 to 50% in the beginning, and depending upon what the VC's tolerance is, that's where your valuation will fall. Okay. these are general tips. I try not to be too cliche here, but some things that I felt would be helpful. And they're basic homework things. I think you have to be completely prepared. You don't want to seem unprepared. You don't want to have not done your homework. You may only get one shot at talking to them. Know your burn rate, what you've done to date. Know how much you're burning. Do not run out of money before you talk to them. Establish financial systems from day one. Measure everything as much as you can, in terms as, return on investment, different product lines, services, those types of things. Have a sound operating plan, annual operating plan and budget. Ideally, in the beginning, have vendors and strategic partners, marketing partners validate your business model. Obviously be surrounded by professionals, have that done from the start, the right professionals. Pay taxes on time. Don't go in there negotiating, hoping they're going to fund delayed taxes. Show a model for profit margins and how quickly you can become profitable. Know the market size, how big it is, because they're interested in that. And if they did have a checklist, they'd want to know that. And beta tests, prove that you've had beta tests that show that consumers or whomever your target is actually use it. Strong management team, strong advisory board, what they call traction, which is paying customers. And show that your model has value to different layers of people, not only your partners, but your end users. And those are sort of...
Yeah. I might just add a couple of things there. Sometimes we get questions from entrepreneurs, do I really need to do a long business plan? Well, I don't know how long it has to be. It doesn't have to have a bunch of fancy charts and graphs. But you need to do a business plan, because in our minds, if you don't do one and think through how to write it and what to say in it, you probably haven't done enough homework on your business, on your industry, on your market. It's a tool that allows you to really drill down as much as you need to drill down when you come to people like us or Rhys to be able to answer the questions about your business. Again, just to Steve's point, I think we want to talk to referenceable customers, and these are not going to be customers who've just done business with you one time. Hopefully they've done business with you more than once, and they can tell us in a due diligence call just exactly why they're doing business with you. And I think, again, just one thing that you need to point out throughout the PowerPoint presentation, the meeting, our face-to-face meeting, and the business plan is, are you doing something that's a nice to have, or are you doing something where there's an urgent need? Were you actually addressing severe pain in the marketplace? Because if you are, then sometimes it takes care of the radical or the disruptive piece of what Steve said. It makes it a lot easier for us to understand what you're trying to do and how you're going to do it.
Now, we've talked about business plan in general, but the other important aspect is the executive summary, which in most cases is a lot of what the institutional investors will take a look at first before they'll even review the business plan at first. And Rhys, maybe you can touch on what ought to be in an executive summary to whet one's, an institutional investor's appetite to want to read more.
Probably the most important piece of paper you'll try to throw some English onto is the executive summary. Just to give you an example, we get anywhere from 20 to 40 business plans a month through the website, plans@newworldangels.com. All of our members have day jobs, are very busy. We actually outsource the initial screen to Jane's group, and actually we've done some experiments with students at FIU, thank you very much, business students, and also at FAU. So you have to hit in a most succinct, concise, economic manner the high points of your plan. And there are many things. I welcome you to, I think if you hit most websites of venture capital funds, and certainly of our website, you'll see also what elements you should include. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but maybe just a couple of, everything you've heard today, what investors look for, management team, background, expertise. Please